Me llamo Sacha Alanoca y soy investigadora de gobernanza de inteligencia artificial con Harvard y Stanford. Y el año pasado tuve la suerte de ser nombrada como la mujer más disruptiva en tecnología en Estados Unidos del año. Así que... gracias a todos. Y ahora voy a volver en inglés. But what is on my mind these days when we think about AI and AI risk? So I'm just coming from California. I arrived yesterday. We are just a couple weeks away from the US presidential elections, which might be a paradigm change. And so really what is on my mind is a lot of what I consume on social media, a lot of the news I have around politics and the outcome of the elections. And so here, I would love to share with you two of the contents where I really had to pause and ask myself, is it real or not? Is this true? So one of them on the left, I don't know if some of you had the chance, of looking at it through Twitter, Instagram, or some other social media platforms, is a picture of Donald Trump working at McDonald's. The other one on right is a tweet or post by Elon Musk, who, as you know, bought X, who retweeted Kamala Harris and seemingly is endorsing her. And so I would love to ask you, because this was a very humbling moment for me in the last days, in the last weeks, which is which one is true and which one was generated by AI? And so I would love to have a little show of hands, if you'll feel comfortable doing this. And I would love to ask you, who believes that the picture on the left is real? Who believes the picture on the right is real? Yeah. I think as we can see, through some of the division in this room, this is a very humbling point and really requires us to pause. So the picture on the left is real. Despite the combination of the unpredictable elements, some of the color tones, which really for me were echoing a lot of what I see in terms of AI generation images these last 2 years, this one is a real picture taking of Donald Trump. The one on the right is one actually, which is a deep fake, which was shared by Elon Musk after acquiring X, so also a little conflict of interest as he's the one who has direct control also over this platform, of a deepfake of Kamala Harris saying something she never said and posting it relaying directly on his platform. And so here I would love, to use those two cases because this is really something, even as a considered AI expert, governance expert, I really myself had to pause and ask myself, what is true? What is real? I had to double check. And I think, this is a very humbling moment for all of us, where really we are entering a moment of post-truth in this algorithmic era. We really are entering a moment as we consume more and more information on social media platforms, the nuances of what is veridic and what is false are blurred. And this is really a humbling moment where, to the topic of today's talk, we have, a moment where we could ask ourselves, what could make us navigate those information better? What are some of the very basic safeguards which can, enable us with more transparency, with more informed consent, be able to digest all of those information, which is the goal of AI governance. It's being able to navigate over those technological changes, all of those intake of information, but in an informed manner, to be able also to act as more informed citizens or business leaders. And so I also really want to be able, to create a contrast. Because these days also, especially since the boom of GenAI and the boom of ChatGPT at the end of 2022, when you look through social media, when you look through media, when you look also through a lot of the sci-fi-fed narratives, this is what appears. I don't know if I'm the only one here, but when you look, on your Google searches, when you look also on all of the titles of traditional media, but also social media posts, you see a huge focus on existential risk, on catastrophic risk, on an AI which is so powerful that it can destroy all of humanity. And so this is really, really far off from some of the very concrete, very tangible impacts that are directly affecting our core society and also our democracy and our elections, as we have just seen previously with the deepfake of Kamala Harris, which was relayed on X. And here really, I want to insist on this contrast. This contrast between those intangible harms, risk, which are so far off, which can destroy all of humanity, versus the very tangible ones that are already happening and impacting our society and our planet. But in our collective media, in the public opinion, there's still an asymmetry. There is still a clear preponderance of this. So what I see the most is a focus on existential risk, which sometimes overshadows, eclipses all of the very current harms, tangible ones, which are already affecting us now. And this is also to center our gaze, to make sure we put the right cognitive weights on the right risk that I would like also to have this conversation with you today. So this is just to give you a little panel of the different harms which are already happening right now. So the first one I would like to present to you is the one which is affecting discrimination and biases. So I don't know if some of you are aware of these cases. This was in the early days of image generation. But so when you try to give a prompt of, for example, an African doctor who is curing some Western or European-looking kids, the algorithm or the AI generator simply refused to do so. Why? Because it was defying some of the common stereotypes we have, some of the historical database we have. And so precisely because of this, despite trying to tweak it and arrange it from multiple amounts of way, it simply refused to do so. And I would also like to bring this part of the conversation here in Guatemala, here in Latin America, because whenever you try to defy something which is not fitting a traditional Western perspective, you and we might be affected from it. So this is why also it's essential for all of us to have such use cases in mind when we speak also, of the wider range of applications of AI. The second one, as we have just discussed, is censorship, political disinformation, and misinformation campaigns. And this is already touching us, It happened also for some of the last elections around the world, but also for me, as I'm currently living in the United States, partly close to home right now, and I'm seeing the direct effect and dangers of it. The last one, which I would love to center today's talk, is how AI can have an impact on our planet and on environmental damages. And this will be the core topic of today's conversation. One caveat before I start, I feel that in the last 2 years, too many times, we try to present some of the AI risk, trying to create a sort of paralysis. Sometimes it seems like so big that there's nothing we can do to it. And this is really not the goal of today's talk. Today's talk, I want you to make you more informed citizens, business leaders, policy leaders, whatever, where you are really having some action thought leadership in your respective fields to be able to better canalize your efforts and that of your team. This is not something for paralysis, this is something for informed consent and better collective action. So a first step before being able to dive into some of the environmental costs of AI is, first of all, something for all of us to be aware. When we speak about AI technologies, most of the time, we have the impression that we're speaking about something neutral. Nothing is neutral. Even the choice of artificial intelligence is a very intentional choice of words to be able to cater to a certain imagination. Also, some might argue also in the AI research field to be able also to cater to some of the business incentives, because it really also creates a certain hype around this technology, and many other researchers would prefer to refer, for example, to machine learning. And so here, I would love to quote one of my favorite researchers, Kate Crawford, who in 2021 said, "Each way of defining AI is doing work, setting a frame for how it will be understood, measured, valued, and governed." So as each of you are approaching AI, whether it's like as a starter, as a more matured knowledge maker, you have to know that all of this is very political. That when we speak about AI, AI risk, AI regulation, the choice of words matter and is nudging you to push you certain form of social perception and public opinion. All of this is already doing the work of trying to shape what you will understand out of it and your range of actions. So this is the first thing for you to regain agency and being able to see the whole spectrum of different AI harms, AI solutions, AI benefits. Understand that sometimes the choice of words is showing you a fraction of reality. And the second also myth I would like to demystify is that sometimes we think about AI as something intangible, something which is so far off that, also that's why it seems something nearly like a god, a godification of something which we feel so small and so powerless in front. But actually, AI systems are very tangible. And when we think about it, there's the hardware, there's the software, there's all of this very physical infrastructure that we can collectively frame as AI compute. And so, relating again, to the materiality of AI systems and its relation also to the planet, we have to be aware that AI systems are tangible. And they include data annotators, they include factories, they include water usage, energy consumption. They use all of those AI compute which have a direct impact on our planet and on our society. This is not something far off. This is something very tangible, even if sometimes in this iceberg you only see the tip of it, which might seem a very convenient ChatGPT LLM that myself I use on a regular basis. But you have to be aware of what is hidden and underneath this iceberg. And so this is one of the core messages, for us to be aware that when we think about AI's value chain, this already has a direct impact on our planet. And today, what I would love to be able to collectively reflect with you is how we can be able to leverage the benefits of those AI systems. I myself am an avid consumer every day of it, while at the same time mitigating its risk. This is really something, a complex trade-off that our human intelligence is perfectly able to solve, I believe. But we need all of us, with our different sectoral expertise, to loop in. So here I would love, to open with one of my favorite quotes, which is directly coming from some of the meta AI researchers, which is saying that the cost of AI on our environment is the elephant in the room. This is often what is not being spoken again. But when we think about the training of large language models, of generative AI, there is a huge environmental cost, which already is showing some of its consequences. And it's really hard to have access to some of the information related to this. A lot of the reports regarding the environmental costs are hidden. But when we look at some of the biggest players, so for example, Google or Microsoft, we can see some of its impact through its environmental report. And so, for example, last year, as Bard and Bing large language models were being trained, both companies had a huge increase in the water usage, respectively of 20% and 34% in 1 year. And so again, I want us to pause that. 34% of water increase to train a large language model. And this is just a start. This is, again, not to create a paralysis. This is not for us to feel disempowered. This is for us to have informed knowledge and see how interconnected all of those issues and benefits are, so we can better catalyze our efforts. There is, again, some of the research by one of my favorite researchers is saying that globally, the demand for water for AI by 2027 could be half of that of the UK. And in a couple of years, it could be also that of entire nations. And again, we cannot just look at some of the benefits and existential harms related to AI systems. We have to understand that this is something tangible, this is something happening now, and this is something interconnected with the different issues and benefits, that we're contemplating on our society. And so what can we do for it? Where is your role? Where is the business leadership intervening? Some of the business leadership that you can have is, first of all, a kind of layer of transparency. Because in order to have informed policies, I need to have access to information. I need to be able to understand what is happening and how can we better coordinate it. And here maybe I'm giving you a glimpse of some of the future legislation which might arrive, which are not there yet. But so if ever you can anticipate and start reflecting on it, you have 1 foot ahead. You're thinking ahead of what's going to come up, and you're going to probably have to comply, or understand in a much more nitty-gritty way. And so what I need is transparency, to be able to understand what is environmental footprint, what is the direct impact of AI system. The second one, and here again, I think that all of us need to coordinate our actions, is to have accountability. Accountability, whether it's through self-assessment, algorithmic auditing, third-party auditing. There's a range of different solutions which are applicable to AI harms such as environmental damages, but also to all of the different spectrum of one. And all of this, if ever you're able to apply it for environmental harms, you can also use it for different kind of risks such as cybersecurity one that we have all heard before. All of those range of problems, you can have similar solutions. And the more expert you can become in understanding how to deploy the solution, the more effective and pioneer you'll be. And so this is where my role comes. This is the role of AI governance. I think that, in the last 2 years, we have heard so much about AI, so much also about AI governance, AI ethics, AI regulation, and sometimes those are buzzwords which seem a bit empty of its true meaning. By AI governance, I mean striking the right balance to be able to leverage the benefits created by those technologies, while at the same time mitigating its risk. This is about finding a balance. This is about, being able to see the whole equation, the whole spectrum, and being able to find a sweet spot to articulate both of those angles. And for that, of course, I cannot just stay, be an academic. I cannot just be a policymaker, civil activist. I need a direct input also from business leaders. What I would like to move now is breaking the false AI narratives, because there are so much formulas which are given to us, and sometimes it really takes some time for us to be able to understand what is true versus not, what is really something which is nudged to us because it's more convenient, versus where we can be more informed and take better decisions out of it. So a first one is bigger is always better. One of my favorite papers, which was released this year, is trying to debunk this narrative. And so often we have the impression that the largest we have a large language model, the better it's going to be to do the overall range of different execution of tasks within our businesses. This is not always true. So there is this paper by Sacha Alanoca, among other researchers, which says that when you have sometimes a smaller large language model, it is more efficient to be able to execute specific tasks. And so again, large is not always good. Sometimes smaller is more efficient and more accurate and better for your business solutions. This is really something to, I think, reflect on and be able, again, to debunk this myth. The second one, and this, as someone who moved to the United States over 2 years ago, I hear over and over again, which is that regulation kills innovation. And I would really like to debunk this, because sometimes we have the impression that we are for the first time confronted to AI technologies, that this is something so powerful, there's nothing we can do about it. It's too big to control, to understand, to govern. But even though AI might be unprecedented and a transformative cause in our society, this is not the first time we're being confronted to the emerging technology. And in the previous times, if ever we spoke aviation industry, automobile industry, this is not the first time we have a drastic transformation of society and something which is a paradigm change. And I would like to ask all of you today, if ever you were driving your car and there was no speed limits, there were no traffic lights, no driver's license, no seatbelt, would you feel comfortable using it? Would you feel comfortable driving your car? Would you feel comfortable taking a plane? Again, no speed limits, no safety belts, no safeguards. I care about my life. I don't know if I would venture there. And so here, I really want us to be able to understand that actually by having very basic safeguards, we can create trust. And trust is one of the key components of consumer adoption. If you have no trust, if you break it, you stop using apps. You stop having precisely this adoption. And so here, I really want to insist, by finding the right threshold, by being able to find the right kind of AI safeguards, we can create this trust, which creates more consumer adoption, which creates this feedback loop of virtuous innovation. And so this is really, if there's one thing to sit in today, it would be this. Regulation doesn't kill innovation, and they can be, if we find a sweet spot, a virtuous feedback loop. And the third one I would like us to discuss is that governance is new, that this is the first time we're confronted to this, and that all of those efforts emerge with Gen AI. But actually, something that probably a lot of you also are aware of is that before Gen AI, there was traditional AI systems. There were discriminative AI. And so all of those efforts, they were already existing. When, for example, we're looking at biometric data, when looking at the use of AI in recruitment, in healthcare system. And so all of this conversation, this rule of AI governance, to be able to leverage the benefits, mitigate the risk, has already started. And so I guess this is a good news also from a business solution perspective, because it means that you already have some playbooks. You already have standards which have been tested, which have been iterated upon, which can help you move in this right direction. And here, I would just love to give a snapshot of the ISC AI Risk Management Framework, which is one of the most accomplished standards for also business solutions, which can help you do so. And so to give some examples, when you speak about govern, it can be who within your business can help you identify what are responsible AI governance and should be able to implement them. When you think about map, is when you look at the different risks, which one are the most sensitive and high-risk one? When you think about evaluate, who can do some risk assessment? Who can do red teaming? Who within your business can practice those and iterate upon them? So this is the whole granularity of the NISC risk management framework. Probably in the Q&A, I would love to dive further into it, but this is to give you a snapshot that this has been well documented, that there are some solutions there that you can already take home, implement in your business, in your different organization, and that can be with direct usage. And I would have a question for you in order to close this talk, which is who within your organization should be in charge of implementing responsible AI? Who within the office, which departments? Do you already have an idea of who should be able to take home this role? So I'll leave a couple seconds for you to start replying to it, and we'll see the answers. Thank you so much.